Hey you guys, I am NanoMango, and I have been, in my free time, 3D printing a lot of stuff, and I wanted to kind of actually show you the process that I've been going through to actually print something. And right now I'm working on a Halo pistol. It's the M6D Magnum from Halo 3. It's one of the more familiar guns if you've ever played the game. It's very specific looking, not quite as iconic as like the SMG or the assault rifle, but definitely a really cool gun. So I have printed almost all of the parts. One of the final parts for the actual body of the gun I just printed, so I'm going to show you kind of the process that I go through with each of the pieces. This being the last main body piece, it's going to be a little bit different, but I'll show you guys the whole process. So I'll break away the support material that is surrounding it, and then I will make some glue using some acetone and plastic, and then I will glue the actual thing together after I've sanded it, and so it's going to be great. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's going to be a cool one. Okay, so right here we have my beautiful hand grip here that I printed. Now, it came off of the printing bed really easily. It wasn't actually stuck on at all, and that is just because after it cools, the bottom expands, and then the support material with the brim all together actually just pops off. So then it was able to be picked up. So this is the actual gun here, as much as I've got it assembled. So this is the Halo M6D pistol from Halo 3. This part printed in two pieces. I got the whole design off of Thingiverse. I wanted to give it a try printing it out. This right here actually printed in two separate pieces when I printed it, but when it came in the actual file, it was originally all one piece, but it didn't fit on my printing bed, so I had to make some modifications. Anyway, so this and this are separate pieces. I just stuck this in here for now. Obviously the handle's separate, these two are separate, and this sight here is also a separate piece that I just stuck in here. These two I solvent welded together. Now if you don't know what that is, I used acetone to melt the plastic together. Acetone can dissolve the plastic, but acetone evaporates really quickly, and so I'm actually able to put two pieces of melted plastic together and then let it dry, and it doesn't involve heat, and acetone's safe for your skin, so I'm able to not really worry about getting it on my hands, and I'm able to weld plastic together, which is pretty awesome. So this piece snaps onto this piece, but I'm not going to do that right now, mostly because it's very hard to get off. I've sanded everything except for the new handle that just printed, and so we'll just kind of leave these here in a semi-assembled state. And then, so I'm going to peel the support structure off this in a second, but first we need to make some more acetone solution, and that is made right here in the bottom of my pop can that I turned upside down. So what I do is I put a bunch of little pieces of plastic in here. I have some more here, but I'm probably going to like cut those up because they're a little bit big. But I have pure acetone right here, and I just pour it in there to I don't put in very much. I just put enough in to just dissolve it, because if you put in too much, you have to wait for it to all evaporate, and it's ridiculous. So I'm gonna pour that off camera because it requires two hands, and I'll be right back as soon as I poured it. Okay, so as usual, I spilled a little bit on my hand, but it's okay. So this stuff is already starting to get a little bit mushy. I poured it like 5-10 seconds ago, and it's already mushy. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's starting to stick to the stick that I use. I found some shims, and I broke one. And if you don't know what shims are, they basically aid in basic construction, like putting in doors and making them fit and stuff. But I had some of them in my basement, and so in a storage area, so I was able to do that. So while this sits and dissolves, we're gonna peel the support structure off of this. So the support structure is very easy to remove if you print it this way. I print it in layers this way. You get two options when you're setting up your print. You can have it be a cross pattern like on the bottom here for the support outline, or you can just have it a single line across, and I chose this because it's so much weaker and so much easier to break off. Watch this, I just push, it just crushes the whole thing. So I'm actually going to set it on my leg here and just pull away, just gently, and look at that. It comes right off and leaves an almost perfectly clean edge. And it doesn't matter how clean this edge is because I'm going to sand the whole thing anyway. But I wanted to share the actual breaking off of the support structure with you guys, since this is really the last part of the body of the gun. So this is pretty awesome. And then this is what the support material looks like afterwards. There's nothing you can do with this except really melt it down, or if I buy a filament extruder someday, I'll be able to make more filament with it, which would be pretty cool. So I'll break that off in a minute. But yeah, so I just peel this off. It's pretty easy, and it's easier than you would expect breaking pieces of plastic off each other would be. And here we go. And then we just, as gently as we can, like, we really don't want to break any of this. Okay, so there's the hole for part of the hand guard there, and then we just tear all of this off. See, look at how easy even the base is coming off right now. This is just beautiful. I'm going to tear the rest of it off camera, and then I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I finally got pretty much all of the support structure off of this. I mean, the bottom looks decent, but when I sand it, it'll look a lot better. Now, you're probably wondering why this is all blue, and that is because I just have the most blue filament. Filament isn't extremely expensive, but when I have a lot of one color, I tend to use that, and then I'm going to be painting this, so the color doesn't really matter. The gray that I had before wasn't really that spectacular anyway, so I was already going to paint it. By the way, this is a original print of the handle that did not work out at all. Look at the other side, it's absolutely trash. But I printed this one vertically, so that will be a lot better. By the way, at the end of this video, there will be about 3 minutes or so of this actually printing. I think I started the video about here, so you'll see it from here up. Printing, it took 3.5 hours, so it'll take 3.5 minutes for the video because it's at 60 times speed, I think. So now I'm gonna start sanding this, so you'll see a little bit of that process. By the way, we gotta stir our acetone solution that we're making here, which is going very nicely. It's getting very goopy. It's beautiful. I'll have to do that with both hands soon, but for now, it's a gorgeous, gross mess. Okay, so I'll show you kind of the basics of what I do to sand. I'm not going to show much, just because it requires a bit of precision in holding the sandpaper sheet down. I actually have a sandpaper sheet. I don't use some sort of tool at all. So anyway, basically I run it along here like this, so you'll see that the flat edge is down, and I do that for every single flat edge. And for when I get to parts where there's indents like this, I will either put my hand under it and bend it up into the contour and run it this way, or I will put it on the edge of the table here, or I will figure something else out. I'm going to sand the entire outside. The inside doesn't matter, and if it does end up mattering because like magazines don't fit properly, I will get to that at some point. But I'm just sanding it because I'm going to be painting it, and I need a rough surface for the paint to stick to, and that's mostly it. The other reason is because of shaping for when I'm going to be solvent welding, which is essentially gluing using melted plastic. I'm going to be doing that, and so like for this piece I'll need to actually sand it more because it doesn't fit in this hole yet. That's the hand guard. And so that's one of the reasons that I need to sand this. I can't sand the inside of this hole very easily, so I'm just going to be sanding this down. And worst case scenario, I can just print another one. This one wasn't that hard to sand. So I'm going to sand that, and then I'll be back, and then you can see me solvent weld a little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done solvent welding. And then I'll show you guys the actual printing, and I think we'd actually be good at that point. I'll keep you guys posted as I go, like when I paint this and such and do the detailing, and yeah, and hopefully you guys really like this. Okay, so as you can see, I've finally finished sanding pretty much all of it. I have a little bit more fine work to do, like inside of here, but this is just about all that I'm going to be sanding. I had to shape this part right here a little bit because, as you can see here, it meshes pretty dang good now with this top part, but it didn't used to. It used to not be able to fit in all the way, so I just sanded that a little bit down. It was a little bit extra, so now this fits perfectly. And worst case scenario, a coat of paint makes it a little bit harder to fit in there, which is just fine because it's actually just the slightest bit loose now, which is totally okay even if that doesn't get fixed. So really everything is pretty much set up. The last things that I need to do is sand this, as I said before, and solvent weld this piece and this piece here. So because as you can see, this piece and this piece are supposed to be one, and then later I'm going to solvent weld this piece and this piece together, but just for today we're going to be doing this piece just because it's a heck of a lot easier to do one than both. Get this freaking thing out with one hand. Okay, there we go. Now as long as I make sure that it measures up like perfectly, I can set it like this and glue it like that, and then just let it sit like indefinitely, which should in theory be perfectly fine as long as I don't bump it, which I shouldn't. By the way, our mixture is going very nicely. It's more of a goop now. There's a lot of chunks still in it floating around and stuff, but it's almost ready to be spread out. So I'll be back with you guys as soon as this stuff is ready, and I will solvent weld my pieces together, and you guys will actually get to see that. So it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, so I did some fine tuning with the lining up of this. I'm not going to have the slide on the model while it dries, but I just used it as a reference to see exactly where this is supposed to line up. So I had a little bit wrong before. This slope right here, there we go, is supposed to match up. Doesn't really matter if the corners match up. Now you'll see that there's a little bit of bending in the plastic here. That's because of the way it cooled. There's no real way to fix that except to solvent weld it and then sand off the weird parts. And solvent welding the way I do it, normal people just brush on some acetone and then stick these together and then let the acetone dry. But what I'm doing is I created a paste that acts as a glue, and so when it dries, it'll just be solid plastic in there with some air bubbles, but that's okay. And so when I glue these together, it'll actually form a stronger bond than slapping some acetone on there. However, this way, it will also let me be able to sand off any excess and kind of use it like expanding foam, where you can actually model the glue that I use to stick them together. So that's going to be pretty cool. Let's actually get to solvent welding right now. So I'm going to spread it onto this side because this is obviously the smaller of the two. I'm going to apply it fairly generously. Let's see, I don't know how I'm going to set this up while I do this. Maybe I'll just hold it between my knees. Try not to get it everywhere. And we'll just start applying it everywhere. And we'll do this really thick. So, yeah, the whole goal is to get enough on here that it will have zero trouble just seeping into every pore, but it will also be able to be sculpted on the outside and fill up any gaps. I dripped a little bit, but it's okay. And this stuff is really non-harmful unless you drip it on something made out of plastic or anything else that can be dissolved by acetone, so don't do this if you wear nail polish, obviously. I hope that's obvious already. And we're actually almost done. I made way too much. But the glorious thing about using this acetone solution is that you can reuse it. You can use it as many times as you need to, because it's just going to dry into plastic. And plastic is what I use to make this stuff. So here we go. We're already done applying the glue. So now we just take it right here. We flip it upside down. We line it up the best we can. And then we just push down until it seeps out all the edges. And that looks concerning, but it's actually a good thing. We push it down really firmly. We don't want much glue actually in there. We just want as much contact with the two surfaces as we can, and then we can sand and cut all of the excess glue off, but that's pretty much lined up now. I'll get that more lined up off camera. This will not be dry for probably close to 24 hours, but when it is dry, it will be like this, and it'll be the same color. This is sanded, really, and cut a lot, but it should be about the same color as the plastic when it's dry. This will turn white, and then it'll turn back to a dark blue again. So that is actually everything. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will update you guys later. I'm not going to probably show me just cutting this off, because it's seriously, I'll just take this little knife that came with my 3D printer and just cutting it off and then sanding it. That's really it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. It was a more educational video than usual, but I have a genuine love for 3D printing and creating stuff, so you guys can find the Thingiverse file in my description, because I definitely did not make this by myself. I did split these two, and all I did was just take it into Blender and just cut right along this line and make sure that everything meshed together in each of these separate objects. But then that was it. So that was really easy. Also, up next is the 3.5, I think, minutes of the handle here being printed. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please do leave a like, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. Goodbye!